Okay, so good evening everyone and welcome to Science Online, the University of Melbourne Change of Preference Bachelor of Science webinar. We're coming to you from Stop 1, which is at our University of Melbourne Parkville campus in Victoria, Australia, in the city of Melbourne. So we've got a great program lined up for you today, and I'm just going to go through a few quick slides to give you some housekeeping tips. And then we'll move into the presentations for the event. So my name is Nikki Haslinghouse and I am a recruitment relationship coordinator in the onshore recruitment team here at the University of Melbourne. And my job, alongside the job that my colleagues have, is to welcome University of Melbourne students and speak to future students about what the University of Melbourne can offer them. Apologies, it looks like we're having some... Here we go, apologies. So in terms of the program for the webinar, this is obviously the official welcome. At 5:35 we're going to hear from Warren from our Student Success and Employability team about the future of work in science and engineering. At 5:55 we're going to hear from Zoe, who is from the Faculty of Science, about Bachelor of Science 101. So all you need to know about the Bachelor of Science. At 6:15 we're going to welcome some of the University of Melbourne's fantastic current students to talk to you about their University of Melbourne experience. So both the life that they lead inside the classroom and also beyond, what makes their Melbourne experience so special. At 6:35 we're going to open it out to obviously all of the staff that are here to chat to you about everything Melbourne, and you'll also have an opportunity to ask more questions of our students. At 6:50 we'll have a wrap up and conclude to give you a bit of information about where to from here. And then at 6:55 we'll leave it open for online chats with you all. So you can stay online if you've still got some questions. We can have a chat as a group, but we can also take some individual questions as well. So just a few little housekeeping things. We are recording the webinar and we will make this recording available to you in the follow-up thank you email. During the webinar, we will send some polls out to you, so we would really like you to participate in those polls if you can. They're just questions about who you are, where you're from and what you're interested in, and will help us get a better sense of who's logging in tonight. In terms of your questions, you can send through questions to us at any point. We will pause at different points throughout the webinar to answer your questions, so just send them through and we'll make sure they get covered by the end. After the webinar, we'll be available to chat, as I've mentioned, as part of the program, and we'll also be able to point you in the right direction if you have any more questions or concerns following the event. The last thing is that we'll send you an email at the end of the webinar, and we would really love it if you could complete the survey. We run these events for you, and it's really important for us to understand how you found them and what we can do to improve or what we did really well. In terms of some housekeeping, this is what you should see on your desktops in front of you. Obviously there's a window there for some questions, and also the window on the right hand side has some information about whether or not you're coming into us via phone or via your computer. Either is fine by us, whatever works best for you is okay. So this is just a little bit more of a close-up on the sections that you'll see. As I mentioned, there are two ways to access the webinar as per the email that you would have received. If you have any issues, we have Nathan who's moderating. Just send a question through to him and he'll be happy to help. Sorry, we've got some slides going a bit crazy. The last thing is questions. So that question box there again, you can just ask a question at any point and we'll get to it when we have a moment, and we'll also have an opportunity to talk to you about your questions during the panel sessions as well. Just as a quick introduction to this evening's webinar, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Melbourne model. So the University of Melbourne has a unique model that enables students to come in to study one of a suite of undergraduate degrees that gives you both the depth and breadth of an amazing number of majors and areas of study. So that gives you the opportunity to look into areas of specialisation. In the Bachelor of Science, you can choose a major, but then have the opportunity to study any other number of areas alongside as electives. And you also have the opportunity to study breadth subjects. And the breadth subjects will give you the opportunity to go beyond your core discipline and get experience in some other areas that you may have a pre-existing interest in, or perhaps you'd like to explore. So maybe a language or some music, or just a different discipline in another program, like the Bachelor of Arts or the Bachelor of Design. It really, for us, we believe that it makes our students more employable. You have much greater experience across a number of different areas. And so it means that you also, when you get to the graduate level, if you choose to study as a graduate, you might also have additional opportunities available to you. In terms of a great little infographic to give you a sense of how the model works, we've got a 3-year undergraduate degree, and that would be inclusive of the Bachelor of Science, which you're all really interested in, obviously, tonight. So 75% of that will be your major and core subjects, and 25% of that will be breadth. So that's where you can go beyond your core discipline to explore areas that are of interest to you. We then have a number of graduate programs that are available to you. And the great thing about the University of Melbourne model is that it's really about a learning journey. So if you want to go straight into master's or graduate coursework at the end of your undergraduate degree, you can. But if you'd like to go out into the workforce and then return later on to do further study, a master's, a PhD, that's absolutely fine. It's really, really flexible. And the great thing about breadth is that you might actually be able to expand your graduate opportunities by studying additional subjects and specialisations within breadth, so that those options open up to you when you finish. So the key benefits of the Melbourne model, it's flexible and it's focused. It allows you to stand out when you then go on to apply for your dream job once you finish. It's internationally recognised and enables you to go out into the world, particularly overseas, if you'd like to do further study. And we obviously have a lot of different experiences, including things like internships and placements to further integrate that learning into real-world experience. It effectively enables you to custom make your own degree according to what interests you the most. Just got a couple of really quick Bachelor of Science and Master's students profiles here for you to read. So we've got Diana, who went from a Bachelor of Science into a Master of Management Marketing. And as you'll read there, she had a really interesting experience and a very specific reason for why she thought the Melbourne model degree suited her well. We've also got Matthew here, Bachelor of Science, who went into a Master of Engineering in Software Systems. And he too has had a really interesting journey that has been assisted by his experience of the Melbourne model. So it's now my pleasure to hand over to Warren, and he's a Senior Advisor in Experiential Learning, and he sits in the Global Leadership and Employability team in Student Success. And this is part of the larger team that supports our students as they go through their studies to make sure that by the time they finish their studies, they've been supported really well to go on to their dream careers and their dream programs. So without further ado, we'll bring Warren into the picture.
Right. Thank you, Nikki. That was a great introduction. So hopefully you've got some idea of the Melbourne model and how we work here at Melbourne. I'm going to take you through a presentation looking at the future of work in science and engineering, as much as we can predict the future, because the future is unfolding as we speak and it becomes quite unpredictable in many ways, but we can look at trends and hopefully make some sense of what the future might be if you're embarking on a degree in this particular area. As Nikki mentioned, again, my name is Warren Fraser. I'm Senior Advisor, Experiential Learning in the Global Leadership and Employability area, which is part of Student Success here at Melbourne. Right, I'm going to start with my first slide, and this doesn't require a response from you as such, but I want you to think about the first iPhone and when it was actually launched, because it gives you some idea of perspective. When you ask this question of people, some think it was 5 years ago, some people think, oh, it might have been 20 years ago. But the actual answer to that question, and hopefully you're close enough to getting it, but the answer to that question is only just 10 years ago. So prior to 10 years ago, the iPhone just didn't exist. And during the last 10 years, there's been a rapid launch of various models, and you've no doubt seen or been part of the queues that form outside the stores that sell the phones. Quite early, there were very large queues. In more recent times, they haven't been as large. But you can see the various models, and the comparison, I guess, with the first model and the latest one today, which is the iPhone X, is quite substantially different. And those who are really right into the technology side will know all the intricacies and insides and outs of how different that becomes. But you can see it's evolved, and it's evolved with the combination of customer interface using feedback, intuition, and design integrating together to produce these particular telephones. And you can see that over time they have evolved dramatically. So I just want to cover a report that was released last year by the Foundation for Young Australians. And they looked at a number of different occupations and a number of different ways of gaining particular skills. So they actually analysed 20 billion hours of work completed by 12 million Australians to come up with a report. So you can see there, the graphic I've got up there is when a young person trains or works just one job, they actually acquire skills that will get them into another 13 different jobs. So the idea of this report is to start people thinking about skills and transferability of skills rather than just aiming for one particular single occupation. And this report highlighted very clearly that there will be clusters, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And this slide covers the clusters that the report identified, and you can see that there are overlapping clusters, and just generally I won't go into that in a great amount of detail, but you can see that the clusters here are the generators, the artisans, the designers, the coordinators, the informers, the technologists and the carers. And you can see that each of those overlaps with various other clusters, and the idea of the report is to start people thinking about clusters of skills rather than specific occupations. But specific occupations do fit within those clusters, but there is overlap so that, for example, the carers are drawing on technology in health sciences and so on. There's a great use of technology to help them perform their job, particularly in those particular areas. But a various number of different areas is drawing on each of those particular clusters. So it's something worth thinking about, because the science degree here at Melbourne Engineering covers a number of skills which cover those kind of clusters. There's a great website, if you haven't already seen it, called careerswithstem.com, and I do encourage you to dive into that website. There's a lot of great information in there, and they do produce regular magazines looking at careers in various areas of science and coding and engineering. But from this website, the quote I've got up there on the slide is that 75% of future jobs will require STEM skills, and STEM meaning science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Yet only 16% of high school graduates are enrolling in STEM degrees in Australia, which I guess could be of some concern, because what we're saying is that the future does require these skills, but the number of schools the number of students within those schools studying those subjects are less. So what it does is create an enormous opportunity to find a career path integrating these kind of skills in STEM. You hear a lot about STEM, and we'll be talking more about this as we go through the presentation. In my role, I meet a number of students and graduates here at Melbourne, and I often meet students who are thinking that what they've studied leads to a particular functional area. So if, for example, you're studying STEM subjects, you might think about that only science and technology organisations are the major employers of people with those skills. But what in fact it really is it includes a broader range of organisations that are taking on STEM graduates. And they include finance, consulting, transport services and construction, and a lot more. And the bottom part of the slide there, you'll see some well-known organisations within Australia, some involved in transport, aviation, banking. These are employers that will take on STEM graduates because they have a number of different interesting roles within those organisations. And it's really good to think outside just one specific area, to think broadly about the number of organisations that are willing to take graduates with this particular degree and this particular background. So this one is just a brief case study showing Ricky Jury. He's an information systems graduate and he's working in Deloitte. And he's been quoted there as saying that it's important that you learn core skills at the university and also to incorporate those in the corporate world where you actually learn new skills specific for large projects that you'll be working on. So organisations are willing to obviously train and create new experiences for graduates, but the graduates come in prepared, ready to, I guess, hit the ground running with this kind of background, this particular type of degree, because it means that they can integrate into the organisation quite rapidly and learn the additional skills that they need to when they're being placed in these particular organisations. This slide shows the cover of an article which appears in Pursuit, which is you can obtain online. It's pursuit.unimelb.edu.au. And this article just came out recently. It's, as you can see there, titled The Jobs of 2027, which is a 10-year time frame. Before we looked at the previous 10 years in terms of the iPhone, this article projects into the next 10 years to look at how technology will impact on the way we work. It's an interesting report, and I do commend you to have a read through it. It only takes a few minutes to actually read. There's a wealth of information in there. But it does state very clearly that jobs like nursing and medicine and so on will be impacted by technology. But it's not all bad news. The good news is that this will free up people with higher level thinking skills to spend more time with the patients, with their clients. And a lot of the routine work will be undertaken by robotics and digital transformation and artificial intelligence. So I don't paint a very gloomy picture like we have heard about in recent times. What it in fact does is create where a graduate particularly is able to utilise higher level thinking skills and use them in the workplace. While in the future it's understood that obviously robotics will take a lot of the routine work away. And as a graduate, it's great not to spend a lot of time on the routine work when you can concentrate on more broader value-added areas. Again, I just want to glimpse over this. This is just looking at some critical skills in the workforce, even over a small period of the next 3 years to 2020. This comes from the Institute for the Future, which is connected with the University of Phoenix. They've identified 10 critical skills there. Don't be too concerned about the names of some of those skills because they are quite different. And in many ways, a lot of employers probably don't fully understand what those things are. But what I'm trying to get at here is, again, you can see by looking at it, for example, we take the first one there, sense making. Okay, there's a lot of information happening, there's a lot of information and data being collected. But actually to make sense of that data is what sense making is all about, determining the deeper meaning or significance of what's being expressed. They're the kind of skills that employers will be looking for in the future. So, and there's a range of other things there, as you can see, which will be taking on a higher precedence in the future. So again, the degrees offered here at Melbourne get the people undertaking this, the kind of thinking, the kind of mindset and the skills required for the future workforce. There are many other reports of this nature, but I've just picked this one in particular just to show you the kind of skills that will be in demand in the future. So that leaves us with the question then, how do you prepare for tomorrow? Well, it's important to gain skills because jobs will change rapidly, and in many ways we don't really know or understand the future. Some people do pretend to know the future, but of course it's changing so rapidly. All we can look at, I guess, are trends and make some sense of what those trends are. But the reality is, if you look back in the previous 10 years, much of what was happening back then we wouldn't have even anticipated happening today. So skills are transferable, and no matter what jobs change, skills will always be transferable into the future. Second point there is that a degree will give you valuable in-demand technical and other skills. And you can gain additional skills during your degree by being involved in clubs and various projects. Projects are also undertaken within the degree, so you get skills in terms of working with other people, interpersonal skills, leadership skills are in demand by employers, and they're the kind of things that you get involved in will give you those additional skills as well. We often encourage students here at Melbourne to build their network through contacts throughout their degree, so get involved, attend clubs, attend professional association events right from the year one. And research some industries you might be interested in, talk to people who work in them is a good idea, and think about the trends in the future. And the way to pick up some of these trends are, what are people actually talking about? When you go on social media and when you listen to the news, what are the key things being talked about? And what drives your interest in those key themes? Think about what drives your passion and your interest in that area. And what are the issues that need to be solved into the future? Think about what they are, because they're the kind of people that are going to make it tomorrow, those who can come up with those solutions to the issues that are facing society today. Nikki mentioned this briefly in her presentation, but this is really just being a well-rounded graduate means the degree combined with work experiences and life experiences makes a well-rounded graduate. So the degree, absolutely important, but it needs to be combined with other things like that, and that's what makes a very highly employable graduate into the future. So you can see hopefully a friendly robotic arm there meeting a human hand, showing that the integration in the future will be humans and technology working together in harmony. If you need to find out more research about jobs in particular or occupations, this is a website I do recommend you exploring further. It's hosted by the Australian Government. It's called Job Outlook. And in there you can explore different careers and look at the future outlooks and particular trends and particular growth trends in particular occupations you might want to search for. It's entirely free of charge. There's a wealth of information in there, and I do suggest you do spend some time in having a look at that website. That's it. Thank you for that, and we'll hand over now to Zoe for the presentation Bachelor of Science 101.
Thanks, Warren. My name is Zoe Wall. I'm from the Faculty of Science, and I'm really pleased to be coming to you live from Australia's #1 university in the world's most livable city. So I'd like to say a big hello out to everyone. We've got people in the United States of America, in Kazakhstan, Algiers, France, Germany, and we've got people near and far here too. So hello to those of you just down the road in Coburg, and to our friends in Coffs Harbour and all around Australia. And I think that that's a big point that I want to make too. Science and the challenges that the world have are global. It's a global language, the kinds of work that we do in STEM, and the challenges that we're trying to overcome and pursue, and the curiosity that we have to make the world a better place for everyone around us. So this is a truly global institution, and that's the idea. So tonight, while you're at home at your computer screens, or you might be in a cafe, or even being driven in the car somewhere, or on the train, you're actually connected to other people interested in STEM throughout the world, and this is a great place to study it. For me, my interest came when I actually was reading a magazine one day, and it was about women dying of postpartum hemorrhaging in lower resource countries in Africa, and I thought, why is this happening? And then I read about a researcher, and she'd actually read that same article, and it changed the whole trajectory of her career, because she had this passion and this inquiry to work out, what can I do? See, the thing is, when most women give birth, they're given a shot of oxytocin, and it actually stops them from hemorrhaging. Sounds simple, right? But it's actually not so simple if you're living in a lower resource country, because if you're having something injected, oxytocin needs to be injected. That takes a professional to be able to deliver that medicine. It also needs to be stored and refrigerated. So if you're in a country where you might have an interruption to the supply of power, you're going to have a corrupted product. So what she decided to do, simply from two people reading the same magazine having different responses, she thought, I'm going to change the format of this medicine. I'm going to change this into a dry powder format that won't require refrigeration, won't need an uninterrupted supply of power, and it can be something that a woman herself in a remote community can actually take herself. So what that did for me, it was that I wanted to tell those stories so that people who have the STEM and science skills can actually make that impact, that I can hopefully get people excited to get out there and make a difference. Her particular project is making a difference in those countries, and this is someone that is now up to human trials and got the backing of people like Hillary Clinton. So we need people out there to follow their passions. And that's the thing about STEM. We've seen from what Warren was just talking about before, that we live in a technology-driven society. So just 10 years ago, without the iPhone, with the invention of that, there is an entire industry awoken from that, and that is app development. So just 10 years ago, that didn't even exist. So that opens up so much opportunity for people with skills in technology and programming and coding. So I guess the pattern that we're seeing is we don't have a crystal ball, but what we can say is that there's definitely challenges that will continue to impact our society. So famine, high population density in cities. How do we build things that will help people move and get to places in a simple way? How do we make sure that people around the world have the right kind of diet? We've got challenges in medicine, cancers. We're still fighting malaria in so many different countries throughout the world. So we have all of these huge challenges, aging populations. So this is showing you that what you want in a future is a career that is going to be necessary now and in that future. So as you can see, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and also I would say medicine and health, which is built upon a foundation of STEM literacy, is something so essential to now and in the future. So I just wanted to tell you what excited me about science and say that we need people like you who are already connected throughout the world with a shared interest. Just echoing on what Warren said, when I talk to young people, when I go into schools throughout the world, the #1 anxiety they have is everyone keeps telling us, you're going to work in jobs that don't exist yet, and they're so anxious about that. But I can assure you, so we've been talking today about building these transferable skills, and that's what you want to look for. So how do I pick a course if I'm going to work in jobs that don't exist yet? Well, look for courses that are going to build you those transferable skills that you can use in the future. So there's different ways of learning. You can learn to drive a car, or you can learn to build that car. So what we're doing in our degrees in the Melbourne model is we're making sure that you're able to build that car. Just as a good analogy there, so not only drive it, but build it, and that's how you remain flexible and able to work in the future state of the workplace. I just wanted to back up some of the stats that Warren was talking about. Now, as you can see, industries change so fast. Reports are a little slower coming. So these stats that are up on your screen right now are from the Office of the Chief Scientist in Australia. They're from 2013 to 2012 and 13, reported in 2016. So reporting's still got a lag time, but you can see in Australia alone, science, technology and engineering is worth $330 billion industry to our economy, and that represents 26% of it. The other good thing I want to point out, this is now, or a few years ago, 44% of STEM graduates are earning in the top earning bracket in Australia. So that's 104,000 and over. And what I should point out is, again, these stats are old and that would be much higher now, but they also don't take into account, again, medicine, primary healthcare and allied healthcare, which at the foundations of those, along with the clinical practice, is again a solid STEM literacy. So I just wanted to point out those things, that it's a really relevant thing for now and in the future. So why study science beyond the fact that that you do want to make sure that you have a career and for the future and for now? I think just going back again to what both Warren and Nikki have spoken about is that a Bachelor of Science and courses in the STEM areas, they absolutely develop those transferable skills that we were talking about. So they're going to develop those problem-solving skills. Every day we're going to ask you to look at new ways to solve problems, new ways to innovate. It's going to help you foster your critical thinking and your communication skills. So those are things that are very useful in all kinds of fields of work. And in fact, Deloitte, so the multinational company Deloitte, have just actually undertaken a survey with employers throughout the world, and 82% of employers have said that regardless of the role, whether it's in accounting or whether it's in marketing or whether it's in R&D, would absolutely value STEM skills, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. I wanted to talk to you about some other drivers for studying a science degree. So the other thing, other than the anxieties of working in jobs that don't even exist yet, when I talk to people just in general about their careers and what they want to do, what are those things that they're interested in doing and what drives them? There's a real pattern to the things that they say, and I'm going to share those things. There are people that just straight up say, I want to make money. I want to make lots of money. I want to be able to travel where I like in life. I want all the nice things. I want Gucci. I want all those things. 44%, going back, this is Australia alone, of STEM graduates are earning in the highest income bracket. And the further on you go in your study, your earning potential, there's a correlation of that increasing. So in general terms, the work of people in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and I will say because through our program people do go into health and primary and allied healthcare, have high earning potential. So it's going to tick that box for those of you out there who would like to be driving a Maserati. This may be one of the ways that you can get there. Some people come straight to the heart of it. So the story that I shared with you earlier about a friend of mine, why she went into the area of research that she did, the prompt for me that I wanted to be working and telling the stories of science and the impact of that. It's about growing your passion. STEM is so broad, and so too is our degree. We have 40 majors. There is somewhere in there that you've got a passion that you can follow. So if that's about being able to, I guess, help an endangered species, if you're into animals, you can do that. If that's about following a particular area in medical science, you can do that. If it's about helping, for those of you overseas, we've got an incredible natural wonder of the world in the Great Barrier Reef. We want to protect that because it's currently under threat. So we need incredible marine biologists, environmental scientists, and even people that go into the policies area to do that. But you can find a way to follow that passion. It could even be in sports science in a football club. Real Madrid, for those of you in Spain watching today. Global work opportunities. I started this by saying that this is a global industry. We have global challenges and there are global needs across the world. So if you'd like to work in different parts of the world, this is something you can absolutely do. So that's another big driver for people. I want a job that I can travel with. So there's lots of collaboration. In the pharmaceutical companies, lots of collaboration between Australian companies and American companies, lots of industry in India, over in Germany and France. The other big driver I hear from people is, I want to make an impact. We want to have a conscious impact about the work that we do. I want to feel good about my work. And this is definitely something that you can directly link to doing science. Lots of impact there that we can, and I'm sure that you'll hear stories right at bachelor level of our students making an impact with what they're doing. And I guess another one that's not such a driver, but, well, it is a driver. If I want to make sure that I've got a career that's going to exist in 10, 20, 30 years, so again, backing up what Warren was saying, this is a future-proof area to go into. Sadly, we are going to continue to have these challenges and new challenges, and we need smart, motivated, and ambitious people to come and solve them and to work on them and dedicate themselves to it. So again, STEM employment is predicted to climb, and you can see that on your screens right now. So I guess the next thing in going into my 101 here is about why science at the University of Melbourne. Well, I think number one, we've been transforming lives all over the world for over 150 years. And we're trying to make sure that our science isn't confined to the labs. It's really important to us that we're educating and coaching leaders, because we need people to be able to champion the work that they're doing. We need people to champion different causes and get people on board to help tackle these issues together. Just this week, and Warren and Nikki have both referred to Pursuit. It's a great online magazine for the university's research. Just yesterday we released that we've actually managed to sequence the entire genome of the thylacine. So those of you in Australia and throughout the world, that's better known as the Tasmanian tiger. And sadly, I think to many of us, it's a bit of a myth, but it really was a real animal, really unique animal. It had the pouch of a marsupial. It is very closely like a fox or a wolf, but yet called the Tasmanian tiger. So what this opportunity means is that maybe one day that's going to give us insights into being able to regenerate extinct species. So this is the kind of work that's going on now at the university that is happening around you. So you get to be working with these inspired, creative, incredible researchers who are connected quite globally, doing really significant stuff. And that's where I want to lead to the teaching. It's research-led. So we get the benefits in the classroom of our academics who are teaching you are working in these circles. They're going to be teaching you to work in the ways of the top talented scientists throughout the world. And I've touched upon those collaborative partnerships. So quite regularly, our Dean, Karen Day, she's a computational biologist, and she works in collaboration with researchers in the United States on malaria research. So we've got an incredible cutting-edge facility as part of the bio precinct, which is a leading precinct throughout the world, trying to combat a disease that kills millions of people throughout the world. So we're thinking really big here at Melbourne. Our students are going to touch on very soon life outside the classroom. So we really do encourage this well-rounded student. It's about learning the practical elements. It's about the theory. And we unashamedly are proud of our theory, because that's what's going to be transferable and put you in good stead in the future for the careers that don't exist. We've got the internship elements, work-integrated learning. You can be mentored by someone in your industry. We've got a job-ready program to make sure that you feel confident to go out and get a job, to make sure that you feel confident if you're one day asked, come and do a webinar for people in Algiers and Germany. And so we're doing that kind of thing. So our students will talk about that, those study abroad opportunities, and the other things that you can do within clubs and science communication. So it is about that well-rounded education. So I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of how do we get you there so that you can be working in this really exciting field in the not too distant future for you. And I'm going to put it down because some people can be quite daunted by our program. And I think that it's actually an exciting program. So we have probably the most flexible science degree in Australia, and that's because you can think of our degree as it's not just a science degree, it's an IT degree, it's a psychology undergraduate, it's an engineering degree, it's pre-medicine, it's pre-veterinary medicine. It's quite incredible in that way, which means that it opens so many doors to you. I'm going to stop for a poll right now. I want you all, coming up on your screen very soon, is a poll. Do you know what you want to study? So yes or no. And that can be, do you know what you want to study? Do you want to do engineering? Do you want to come in and be a physicist? But do you know what you want to study, or are you a little unsure still? So I'll give you a few moments. And we'll just give you 5 more seconds. Okay, so we have overwhelmingly, to those of you out there joining us tonight, 73% of you know exactly what you want to be studying. 27% are a little unsure. So I'm going to make this simple for both of you, both audiences. The beauty of the Bachelor of Science at the University of Melbourne is, for those of you who know exactly what you want to do, you can start studying towards that from day one. So if you want to be an engineer, you can start studying in engineering from absolutely day one. What you'll do from there is you'll go into our graduate school, and I'll be joined by one of my colleagues from the Graduate School of Engineering later on in the evening, and you'll do your Master of Engineering in your particular area. What you'll come away with is a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Engineering, and that will give you what you need to practice as an engineer. And we can take more detailed questions on that later. So same too, if you'd like to become a vet and look after all of our animals out there, you can come straight in from day one and you can start studying towards being a vet. The good news for you is, if you've got absolutely no idea but you know that you really love science, technology, engineering, mathematics, health and medicine, you can actually leave lots of different doors open to you in the first year, and then you can start exploring and get to know what you want from there. So while I said we've got 40 majors, which is incredible because they come right from areas that do sit into medicine, right through to your classic natural and life sciences, and right through to your engineering, psychology. We've just got 9 areas in first year that you do. So these 9 areas that are up on your screen actually open you up to the 40 majors as you go through. So the good news for that 27% of you who are a little unsure, you can actually leave some pretty incredible options open to see what you love, what you're good at, and start thinking. So what Warren said, start talking to some people working in different fields and seeing what makes them tick, what makes you tick, what sorts of things do you want to be doing. So for example, you've got biology there in first year. That can actually open you up to, just counting on the page here, we've got life sciences. It's actually about 20 majors if that's leaving open that you don't need to decide until you're in second year. So also going back to those of you who know exactly what you want, will help you pick those subjects, say for example, to make sure that you're going to be well set up to be able to apply to go into our graduate medicine program, to be able to go into even things like law or commerce. So for example, if you know that you want to do biotechnology, you may actually want to complement that with a Master of Commerce, or your MBA. So there's lots of different things. So basically what will happen is day one, we'll work with you to talk to you about what you want to do and how you want to get there. And if we go on to the next slide, Nikki, we'll show you that here's these 9 subject sets of first year lead into all these 40 majors. So we like to say 1 degree, 40 majors and unlimited opportunities. I think the bonus for me is for those 27%, you can leave some pretty significant doors open to mathematics, physics, or even leaving engineering open. So that's a great thing to do to explore your options. Throughout the process, we'll continue to coach you and work with you going into second and third year, and you'll get lots of opportunity to work with our graduate schools to talk to them about, am I on the right track, and to talk with them in a bit more detail about that. Well, moving on again, so we can talk to you on the online chats a bit more about that. Another way that we're preparing you for the future is that we're actually looking at the fact Steve Jobs made a big statement that we think is pretty true. He got a lot right in life, and that was the future breakthroughs are going to happen at the intersection of technology and science. So you're starting to see these new areas emerge where different disciplines collide. So the primary ones at the moment that we've introduced as new majors are computational biology, and I discussed that a bit earlier, where that's marrying IT and we can go back, IT with biology, with mathematics and statistics. And then data science. Data science is probably one of the most rapidly growing professions in the world. In fact, the Harvard Business Review named it this year the world's sexiest occupation of the future. So move over rock stars, it's now the time for data scientists. So if you like your numbers and you like your data, it's the sexiest. You heard it here, well, second, because Harvard Business Review have said it first. Data scientists are the sexiest professions of tomorrow. So this is us, we're responding to looking at those job growth and what's happening, and that's why you'll see those two new majors in our Bachelor of Science. So they're ones worth looking at too. So when we're talking about our fully rounded students and wanting to prepare for the future, a great component of the Melbourne model is breadth. So what you'll do is, after you've picked your major, you'll also pick your breadth subjects. And you can do this in so many different ways. These are subjects from other areas that add to your experience, to your expertise, to your knowledge. And students do this in lots of different ways, and I've got some actual examples of subjects on your screen. So for example, a student can actually think, well, I definitely want, I want a global career, so often they might choose a language to complement that. So some of the languages we have are on screen there, really, really useful ones in terms of subjects that you might be doing: French, German, Japanese, Spanish, all sorts of different options there. Some students will complement it. Again, when I was talking about biotech, a lot of what we're doing in science is trying to translate or commercialize our research. A lot of science is in research and development. Also with engineering, students might choose things like business subjects to complement what they're doing. You might actually just choose something because you actually just love it. You're really interested in food, you're really interested in global challenges. So you might choose a subject like food for a healthy planet. Some students even just choose subjects in film. They might decide to carry through a passion that they've had throughout their life, like music. And some students will also enhance their professional skills. So they might do a subject in communicating science and technology. So there's lots of ways that you can use breadth for your own interest, to follow your own passions, or if you want to just get a bit more of an edge in what you're studying. So our students will talk to you a bit later about their breadth. And I thought I'll just show you a bit. This is a sample course plan on your screen. And of course, you can also download through this webinar our course brochures. So this is a science brochure there, and there are more course plans available in there. So there's some good examples going to veterinary medicine, psychology, engineering, and even through the pathway through to graduate medicine, physics and mathematics. So we've got a couple more examples there. But basically what you can see is that it's color-coded how a student might actually fill those things. So this particular student looks like they're on their way to engineering. So they've got their first year subjects that will prepare them for that. And they're the subjects that are in green are your core units that you need to do. And then the blue subjects, I think we've got a bit of a change in the blue, but trust me, it's the same thing. The blue is the blue. That's your major area. So this student here has chosen engineering. And then in purple, that's the breadth. So that's where you might add your language skills. It's where you might do film or business. And in this case, the student's chosen a few different things along the way. Movies, sports coaching, so you can see how broad it can be, that you can truly customize this degree for what you need it to be. So, where do students go from there? I probably should have stuck my second slide in again at the end, but that is where they would move on to their graduate study. So that's where they might move into their Master of Engineering, they might move into their Master of Psychology, Medicine, Physics, Biostatistics, whatever their particular interest is, or they might actually exit, go to work, and they might come back later. Some will go through to research, but basically what you get is lots of opportunity to make this degree what you want it to do. So this is covering all STEM because it does all go together. It's all cross-disciplinary. So what do you need to do to get in? And I just want to make a note to our international friends out there to contact us, and we can talk to you specifically about subjects and pathways from your own institutions in your own countries. We'll talk to you about that. But for the majority online tonight, we've got a lot of Australian students who are just about to get their VCE results actually, so good luck to you guys. But what we need is Units 3 and 4 of English and a study score of at least 25 or 30 in English as a second language. And we need Units 3 and 4 with a study score of at least 25 in maths methods or specialist maths, and in one of biology, chemistry or physics, so your lab sciences. But at the same time, we can also switch out those lab sciences for another maths in specialist maths. For those of you with your IB, good luck to you on the 4th of January, but we'll be looking for a grade 4 standard level or higher level or above in English, mathematics, and one of biology, chemistry or physics, or grade 4 standard level or higher level or above in English, mathematics and further mathematics. So again, my special shout out to you interstate doing the HSC, or you might be doing studies A-levels. If you're in Hong Kong DSE, we can talk to you specifically about that. So clearly in ATAR, again back for those Victorians, was 85. And we've got an entry scheme for some of our underrepresented schools with special guarantee at 78. Talk to us again at the end for more detail about those pathways. And we're also going to touch upon scholarships later on as well. So if we do have any Australian Indigenous students out there, we've got a special program, the Bachelor of Science Extended, and that includes some great industry partnerships and mentoring with Agilent Technologies, one of the best and biggest instrumentation organisations throughout the world. We have national scholarships for Australian Indigenous students and special Commonwealth scholarships, but part of Extended, the opportunity for accommodation on campus, and you've got that 4 years and mentoring in those specialised subjects. So good luck to everyone, and you'll see me again shortly, but I want to put the call out to you that we need more smart, creative, curious minds out there for the sake of everyone worldwide. So I hope to see more of you excited about science with myself here at the University of Melbourne soon. Thank you. Hand back over to Nikki.
Hi everyone. So what we're going to do now is we're quickly going to sort out our student panel. So get everyone around the table and switch on our two lovely students who are joining us from Central Victoria and London. So if you can just hold out for a couple of minutes, we'll get all of that set up and we'll rejoin you shortly with our great team of students to chat to you about their experiences at the University of Melbourne. We'll see you in a moment. Okay, so we are just getting sorted with a couple of our students who are joining us from Central Victoria and London, but while we get those sorted, we might start off with a couple of questions for our current students. So I'd like to introduce Claire. Oh, here we go. We've got someone here. Hello, Maya. I'd like to introduce Maya, who's joining us from Central Victoria. There we go. We've got Tristan.
Hi.
We've got Claire.
Hello.
And we've got KL.
Hi.
So what we might do is we might just start off by just going through our different students to ask them why they chose to study the Bachelor of Science at the University of Melbourne. So we might kick off with Tristan. Tristan, why did you decide on Melbourne?
That's a really good question. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at all in terms of university study in high school. I was sitting there, I knew I liked maths, I knew I liked physics, I like computers, but my school didn't have any good IT programs, like IT subjects. So I didn't know what I wanted to study. I just wanted to do something within that area. That led me to looking for a really broad degree, something that, as you heard earlier, can lead to lots of different pathways and keep lots of doors open. And that's why I picked science at Melbourne, because it wasn't until this semester, so I've just finished the second year of my Bachelor of Science. It wasn't until this semester, the second semester of my second year, that I actually picked my major. So I had lots of time to decide exactly what I wanted to do, and I just finally decided on majoring in computing and software systems.
Great. And Claire, could you tell us?
I'm similar to Tristan in that I wanted a very broad degree because I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I knew I liked science, but I wanted to explore all the different areas of science because it's such a broad discipline. And so through the Melbourne model, I was able to do a broad range of subjects in first year, and that enabled me to see what I was really passionate about without jumping straight into something that I wasn't 100% sure that I actually wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Fantastic. And KL?
Yeah, for me, it was pretty straightforward. Like, I came in knowing that I wanted to do the DBM, the veterinary medicine. So, like, I was researching the universities, and Melbourne offered like a very direct pathway to vet medicine, and there's even an accelerated program. And also, the accreditation allows you to work overseas, like in US or North America, and basically anywhere in the world. So it was kind of like a ticket to the world. Yeah, so that's why I chose Melbourne.
Wonderful. Now we're going to go out to Maya. So Maya, can you let us know why you chose the Bachelor of Science?
Yeah, mine was pretty much due to I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wanted to keep my options open, and I loved the idea of breadth, so I could study something different to my degree at the same time. And I'd heard about Melbourne Uni's exchange program, and I really wanted to do that, so that was really one of the big reasons that I came to Melbourne. And I love the location of the campus too, and because I live in rural Victoria, moving to Melbourne, central Melbourne was really inspiring and interesting.
Fantastic. So we might also check in with Maddie. Now, Maddie, I'm just wondering if we've got your mic available. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I
Wonderful.
can hear you guys.
Beautiful.
Can
Okay.
you hear me?
So, Maddie, can you tell us why you chose the Bachelor of Science?
Similar to KL, I've always kind of known that I wanted to study physics. So I remember I went to a special camp in year 12 called NYSF, and at that camp we got to Skype with people who are working at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, and there they told us that almost all of the Australian scientists who work there are from Melbourne Uni, so I was like, okay, better go check out this Melbourne Uni. And aside from that, I found the Melbourne model worked really well for me because I've really enjoyed studying English and philosophy in high school, so I got to keep doing that with my breadth subjects.
That's fantastic. So now that we've got everyone hooked up and in the room, I'm just going to really quickly run through what the different students are studying and where they're at. So Maddie, who is joining us from London, and she's in the screen on the webcam, she's completed a semester of exchange at the University of California, Berkeley. She's lived in college at the university. She is a member of a student society, so she'll hopefully tell us more about that. She's moved to us from New South Wales, so that's a great shout out to any interstate students we have here. And in terms of what she studied, obviously a Bachelor of Science in Physics, and she's currently completing her Masters of Science in Physics. KL, who we've got here in the room, is doing a Bachelor of Science in Animal Health and Disease, and as he mentioned, he's currently completing the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. And that's a course that's based both at the Parkville campus here and a little out of the city at our Werribee campus. So he's got some great practical vet experience, which he'll be able to tell us about. He's an international student from Singapore, so hopefully we'll hear a bit about that journey. And he's also an active volunteer at the university. Claire, who we've also got in the room, her Bachelor of Science is immunology, and she's just been accepted into the Doctor of Medicine. So I hope out there you're all giving her a bit of a clap, because that's a great achievement, and I'm sure she's really excited. So she's been on exchange to the University of Bristol. She's done work experience at the CSIRO, and for those playing at home but overseas, that's a major research institute at the, not at the University of Melbourne, in Australia. She's an inter-science mentor, and I'm sure she'll tell us more about that. She also did the National Youth Science Forum, as did Maddie, and she is involved in the Women in Science and Engineering group. Tristan, who's also in the room, computing and software systems second year, so he's one of our younger panellists, but lots of experience, I'm sure. And he also did the University of Melbourne Extension program in physics, which is a program we offer to aspiring Year 12 students who want to add a little bit more of a challenge to an already big year. He attended school in Melbourne. And finally, we've got Maya, who's joined us in the webcam. She's doing health sciences subjects in science. She's living in Student Village because obviously she's a country student, and she's from Mount Beauty Secondary College, so again, out from a regional area. So now we've got everybody in the room. It'll be great to obviously continue the conversation. So what I might do is, and just whoever would like to kick off, just let me know. Tell me a little bit about why you selected the major or the area of study you did, and where you hope to take it.
So my major was immunology, which I think my passion for that started in Year 12 biology when we did a little bit about red blood cells and how the immune system works, and I really love that aspect of biology. And so in first year uni I did biology and chemistry as well as psychology and a breadth subject in Italian, continuing my language from high school. And in the biology subjects in first year, again, I got that taste of immunology, and I said, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. So then as you go through the years, it gets more and more specialised. So in second year, I did microbiology and immunology subjects, and I did that both at the University of Melbourne and on exchange in Bristol. And then in third year, therefore, continued that major, and I also did a research project in the immunology field and loved every minute of it. So yeah, that's how I came upon that decision.
And Maya, do you want to tell us a little bit about where you're at with your subject selection and what you're planning to do throughout your undergrad and possibly afterwards?
Is that me?
Yes, that was you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm actually thinking about immunology and microbiology too. Same reason, BCE biology, I really enjoyed that aspect of the course. But I also discovered early in my first year that I was really interested in teaching and maybe working overseas in developing countries. So I feel like with the prevalence of disease in developing countries, I can hopefully teach and work on helping with disease and inequality in developing countries. And so I plan to do a Master of Teaching after my bachelor's. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Fantastic.
Going.
A Master of Teaching is just another great example of what the Bachelor of Science can open up to people. And Maddie, what about you? You're on a track towards physics, which is really exciting. Why did you choose physics, and where do you hope to take your physics?
I picked physics because I've always just kind of been really interested in how things work. And I sort of always said when I was younger, like, I just wanted to know everything. So for me, someone who's quite strong in maths, physics was a pretty logical place to start. Similar to Claire, I really found my calling when I was on exchange. I knew I wanted to do physics before that, and Uni Melbourne only offers, like, I think it's 3 different physics degrees, so they're pretty, physics majors and undergrads, they're pretty general. But on exchange and in third year, I decided that I wanted to do particle physics. and eventually hopefully work as a researcher in that field.
That's fantastic. KL, tell us a little bit about the major you selected and the process you're going through in going into the DVM and what you hope to do as a future vet.
Well, I guess for I did the animal health and disease major in vet bioscience. Yeah, so for that it's actually pretty straightforward. Like everything is laid out for you. So you just take all the subjects that you're meant to take, except your electives and breath, which are pretty flexible. Yeah, and basically at the end of second year, you apply for the DVM and you get getting through based on your grades and also a 500-word personal statement outlining why are you interested in becoming a vet, and also I think you need about 2 referees. Yeah, so it would be good if you have some experiences like interning or volunteering at a vet or at a clinic or like a shelter or something related to animals. Yeah, so and then once you get through that, you're almost there, like halfway through becoming a vet. Yeah.
And how was your experience? Have you gone to Werribee, visited yet, or studied at all over at Werribee?
Yes, so in the first 2 years of DVM, you go to Werribee once a week. Yeah, so they have live animals there, and basically they just want to get you used to going there in your 3rd and 4th year. Yeah, so you do practicals there. They have like sheep and cattle, so you do exams on them. Yeah, and they just want to introduce you to the environment over there. Yeah.
Great. I might just keep you talking for the moment. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into your journey as an international student? What was it like to come to the University of Melbourne? Why did you choose Melbourne? And anything you'd like to tell other international students about your journey?
I guess coming here was pretty easy. Like even back in Singapore, before we come over, they actually have a pre-departure briefing where they get students who are currently studying in Melbourne to come and talk to you, like answer all your questions, so you wouldn't be too intimidated when you reach Melbourne. Yeah, I guess most of the students who come here are about 18 or 19, so leaving the country at such an age may be pretty daunting. Yeah, and the pre-departure briefing definitely helped. And also, once you get here, I think everyone is pretty friendly, especially the school staff. Yeah, like they even have a day where, I think it's academic day or something. Yeah, they just like sit down with you, talk you through what you're interested in, like your majors and stuff, and they just tell you, give you advice on what to take. Yeah, and also the orientation week where you just experience all the booths and student activities. Yeah, so the transition was actually pretty simple. So yeah, it's not too daunting.
That's great. And what we might do then is just talk a little bit about, again, where the students come from. So if I can go back to you, Maddie, you came from New South Wales, so you were an interstate student, and the University of Melbourne is lucky to welcome many interstate students each year, and they're a great asset to our student community. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to come to Melbourne specifically as an interstate student, because you were in New South Wales, and what that journey was like for you, and where you lived when you came here, or rather where you still live? Let us know.
Yeah, so I think I kind of touched on why I wanted to move down to Melbourne in terms of like academics and things like that. But aside from that, on the kind of more like personal sphere of things, my parents have always kind of been pretty supportive of me moving out to go to university. And when we started having those conversations, they were like, oh, if you're going to move out, you may as well move all the way out and like go to a different state or something. And I was like, all right, I'm up for that challenge. And so I moved down to Melbourne, not knowing anybody in the city. And I'd come down once before to look at Open Day and have a look at some of the colleges, and I was pretty sure that that was the kind of ideal living situation for me, because I kind of think of it as a bit of a halfway house for moving out. There's people like still doing your cleaning every week and cooking meals for you, but you've got a bit more independence than I think you would have if you were living at home. That's something that's really worked for me. It's nice and convenient and it's close to the university. But the college bubble is definitely a thing. Like in undergrad, I made most of my friends at college as opposed to at uni, and it's only kind of now as a graduate student that I'm moving out that I've made more of an effort to get engaged with a lot of the stuff that's on at uni.
Fantastic. And I'll come over to you, Maya. So you are a student that's in country Victoria. So Mount Beauty is a beautiful, beautiful place in country Victoria in the high country, but it's definitely not within commuting distance. So let us know a little bit about the student living village where you've lived and your experience as a rural student.
So yeah, moving 4 hours away was pretty daunting originally. Like, I have about 170 kids in my entire school, and I know all my teachers pretty well, and I knew uni was massive, so it was pretty scary. So I definitely wanted to stay on campus where I knew I could make friends and see the city through, with experience with other kids going through the same thing. But I also found college, I was a bit like, oh, it's very full on, is it really for me? And that's why I find student village is in the middle of living really independently in an apartment that you rent yourself and a college. So it's like in the middle of those two. So there's still heaps of social events, you make friends like college, but you cook your own meals, you clean, you have your own little personal space, and like for me that really worked. I did get homesick in first semester, pretty bad, but the more you go to uni and you meet people and make friends at uni and from my accommodation, you start to build a life down in Melbourne, and like the homesickness slowly goes away and you really feel like you end up belonging at Melbourne Uni. Yeah, so it's going really good.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Maya. So I feel we haven't spoken to Tristan for a while, so we should probably go back to lovely. Tristan, I'd like to start talking about breadth. So breadth is obviously between 4 and 6 subjects that students can take from any number of disciplines elsewhere at the university during their Bachelor of Science or any of the new generation undergrad degrees. So tell us a little bit about what you have done with your breadth and why.
Breadth is a really interesting part of the degree. I've actually meant to do one breadth subject a semester, but I had done the university extension program, so to begin with, my degree structure is not quite standard. But I knew that in year 12 I studied German. Through high school I studied German. I went on exchange to Germany and absolutely loved my time over there. So I wanted to keep studying German, so I did that in my very first semester as breadth. I realised that German at university wasn't quite what I wanted. I really enjoyed speaking it and speaking with all my friends from Germany, but didn't quite enjoy studying as a language at uni. But that really helped me figure that out in my first semester. I also had this nagging question, somewhat prompted by my parents, but not entirely, of whether I wanted to become a lawyer or not. And going to the Bachelor of Science, there are, many opportunities to study law within your degree at science. However, the breadth pathway gave me the opportunity to try principles of business law, a subject that was actually spoken about earlier in one of the presentations. And that subject was super interesting and gave me a whole new way of thinking really about problems and just everyday situations. It confirmed for me that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't really enjoy it and view it as my future pathway, but it was really good to be able to open that door, understand whether I wanted to do something or not, and then realise that wasn't what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah, and a really perfect opportunity to check that out and make that decision earlier before you're much further down the road.
Exactly. Right. I didn't have to enroll in a law degree and go, this is horrible, this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
The rest of my breadth subjects, because there's one a semester, I haven't actually done any more breadth subjects because I'm saving the rest up to hopefully go on exchange. Hopefully to where Maddie went, UCB, would be, University of California, would be fantastic. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
And that's the really wonderful thing about breadth as it regards going on exchange. Breadth enables you to actually choose an exchange destination that may not be offering the specific core program you're doing. So you might not actually go and study science subject as a science student. You might study a language, or you might study fine arts or music or any number of areas because you have that flexibility. We just might skip across to Claire. Claire, your breadth, tell us a little bit about that.
So again, in first year I did Italian, so in both semesters, continuing on from my high school Italian, and I really enjoyed that, but it does certainly get harder at university. But it was very enjoyable, and the tutors, coming from a science degree, doing a language is so different, and it really broke up the year and made it so that the tutes were really enjoyable and something different from what you get in a science degree, which is more in first year structured around lectures, so the tutorials were really nice. and then I actually did a winter subject in second year, which was deafness and communication, and that was a really good subject. So basically you learn about Auslan, which is the Australian Sign Language, and that was a really enjoyable subject, and they brought in deaf tutors, which was really amazing experience, and I really highly recommend that subject. And it meant that I could go on exchange to Bristol by doing a winter subject, because in Bristol they only do 3 subjects a semester. So at Melbourne we normally do 4. So that brought me up to the 4 subjects that I needed to be at a full curriculum for that semester. And then I did my final Brett subject. You can do between 4 and 6 Bretts, so you get the choice of your last 2 Brett subjects being science or Brett. So I did my last Brett subject in overseas at Bristol, and that was on youth politics and social welfare, which was, again, very interesting, and you get to meet amazing people from different areas by doing Brett subjects outside of your faculty.
Fantastic. Maddie, we haven't spoken to you for a while. Do you want to cap off the conversation around selecting Brett and why you chose what you did?
Sure. I only took 4 of my possible 6 Brett subjects. I wasn't quite as smart as Tristan, and on exchange took 4 major subjects, which is a mistake. Do not do that on exchange. I was interested in English a lot in high school, and I was tossing up actually between a Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science when I was coming to uni. So it was really great. In first year, I took an Intro to Philosophy course in first semester, and then kind of Modern and Contemporary Literature in the second semester, and I really enjoyed both of those and continued them. So in second year, I took another philosophy course that was based around ethics, which was really, really interesting, especially coming at it as a science student. I was the only science student in my tutorial, so there were a lot of very interesting questions in terms of like what the other students thought was ethical in terms of scientific research, whereas as a scientist I kind of had a very different point of view to them. And then in third year I took another literature course too. And like Claire said, it's really nice having that like balance between the really hardcore science and math subjects to get to go to something that's a bit more student discussion led.
Fantastic. We've got a couple more topics that we're going to talk about. I am aware that we are we've pushed out our program a little in terms of what we're going to cover, but we'll make sure that you get the full value of our students' expertise by just covering a couple of other areas, and then we'll bring the whole team in, so to speak, to cap things off. So the last 2 things that I wanted to ask our wonderful students to talk about are Stop 1, so student support services that are available to help our students through their studies, and also just to talk a little bit about their life on campus beyond the classroom, so things like student clubs and societies and sports, and really anything else that they've taken up at the university. So if we can start Stop 1 and student support. KL, what kind of support have you used? Online, in-person appointments? Let us know.
Yeah, I guess for me, mostly it was to do with enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if I have any enrollment issues, I can easily just log on online and just speak to them. I think that's an online chat function. Yeah, and also if that doesn't work, I'll just head down to Stop 1 to just speak to any of the staff. Yeah, and usually it gets resolved really quickly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Maya, over in country Victoria, tell us your experience of Stop 1 and the kind of the support they've been able to offer you as you've studied.
Yeah, well, it's really handy because if you just ever have a question, you just know exactly where to go to Stop 1, either online or go in for a drop-in like appointment. And like I've been to a drop-in at like any time of day and haven't had to wait more than like 15 minutes, and so you can get your answer in a really short amount of time, whether you're already on campus, or you can also do it online through chats or leave an inquiry, which is more like emailing a person rather than messaging a person, which is it's really helpful. Yeah, definitely is a good way to solve any issues that you come across through your degree or outside of your degree, but to do with the university as well.
The great thing about Stop 1 is that it includes lots of different things. So obviously Warren is from the larger Stop 1 and student success team, so he's there to help people around their career and what they might do in the future. We've got free counselling and psychological services. We have obviously all the enrolment and enrolment and admissions assisting, and various different things, including things like the health service as well that we have here at the university that exists really to support you through your studies. We might just land on the last topic for the student panel, and that's just things that you might have done. Tristan's already smiling, so I think he has an answer. Things that you might have done on campus as part of your student experience, clubs, societies, let us know.
So there's over 220 different student clubs and societies. I know that figure because I love clubs and societies.
And you are a member of them all?
Not all of them, although in first year I tried very hard. There's actually during a week, as Kale's touched on, there's 2 days over which there's about 100 different stalls on South Lawn, which is a big, beautiful lawn at campus here. And there's all these stalls, and every single club has a stall which is set up, and you can go and join any and all sorts of clubs, from the Chocolate Lovers Society to the Psychological Student Society to the theatre groups and the Engineering Music Society, all these various groups. I'm a bit of a nerd, and so I'm the secretary of the Tabletop Gaming Society. Basically, we play board games. So it means that after I've had a lecture on a Wednesday, I can just sit down with a bunch of mates and just play a board game or a card game, or just chat about the latest change or whatever's happening in board gaming. So I enjoy that, but I'm also a member of various other clubs and societies on campus. There's a few too many to name right now, but there's literally any interest you have. If it doesn't exist as a club and society, you can create your own, which I've seen some friends do, and that's an interesting experience to find the people that may not be active in their interest, but want someone else to meet, and it's a great way to meet other students and form networks and friendship groups on campus.
Fabulous. Yeah, good.
Like, I'm passionate about all the other opportunities at Melbourne Uni as well, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I also picked Melbourne Uni, is just so much support and so many extracurricular opportunities, whether it be volunteering. There's so many volunteering opportunities. You can actually do this award called the Leaders in Community Award, which involves doing community service both at university and outside of university, which is a fantastic opportunity. And then there's things like careers on campus, so you can apply for jobs at the libraries and at Stop 1. There's many opportunities for work at the university as well, creating a really good work-study life balance. And then there's other opportunities to help extend yourself as part of your job, so you can be part of Job Ready, which is a free 1 hour lecture per week, which just helps you to work out LinkedIn and public speaking, how to write a resume, how to interview well, and there's so many other fantastic opportunities that Melbourne, and such a big university organisation, enables you to have, and I think that's one of the best things about the student experience at Melbourne.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do now is you guys stay where you are. Maddie and Maya, you stay where you are. Don't log out. We are going to get Warren and Zoe and Steph DeCamo to pop in, just standing behind our 3 panellists, and we're going to answer some quick questions from the floor. Just give us a moment and we'll get everyone set up. So this is really just an opportunity to take some questions that are coming in from you at the moment, so feel free to start typing them through. Our moderator Nathan is going to let us know some of your key questions. I'm going to just swap over now to the next slide to let you have a reminder of who's in the room. So a particular introduction as well to Steph DeCamo, who's over on the right there. She's waving. Hello. Now, Steph is from Melbourne School of Engineering, and she will be able to give us lots of great information about any engineering questions you might have. So to kick things off, Nathan, have we got a question from the floor?
Yes, one of the questions we've had pretty regularly is how do breadth subjects differ from electives?
Sure. they differ from electives in science?
No problem. So pretty much in your electives, you can choose other areas of science that you want to complement your studies with. Your breadth is where we actually get you to look outside of that area a bit more. So again, for example, a language, we've had music, film, sports coaching. So it's that opportunity to make you a much more well-rounded student and really well prepared for the future. So that's the difference in a nutshell.
Great. Nathan?
Cool. One question we've had here from Faith is how many contact hours are involved with the Bachelor of Science degree?
So maybe, Zoe, do you want to answer that on a top level and then maybe
I think
student
maybe
experience?
together we can,
Yeah.
because it will depend upon your program. So different subjects may have different contact hours. So I guess to make it probably pretty simple, generally you'll be doing 4 subjects each semester. So we have 2 semesters throughout the year, semester 1 and semester 2, and generally a full-time load is 4 subjects in each, 8 for the year, and that will depend upon those subjects. Some subjects may have a 1-hour lecture followed by a 2-hour practical. Other subjects might even have, I guess, a tutorial in there where you might discuss particular theories and have a lab component. It will depend upon the subject. In your experience, guys, I do want to point out before I do hand it over to the students, just because we say that, say, a particular subject is a 1-hour lecture and a 2-hour lab, doesn't mean that that's the only time you need to be studying. That's what you need to do at university on campus. So to actually be prepared for those subjects and to make sure that you get your assessments done, you'll be actually doing a lot more study on top of that. So it's a little bit of a misnomer if someone says 4 subjects, 3 for each, 12 hours a week. I've got all the free time in the world to go surfing. It's not the case. Because you might be surfing, but you might not be passing. So over to you, Tom.
If I can start.
Yeah.
My subjects, it's been really interesting. When I was really interested in physics in first year before I picked my computer science major. When I was doing physics, and I'm sure Maddie's aware of, there's a lot of lab hours, especially when you're doing some of the intensive lab subjects. And so when I had those subjects, I was having contact hours around 20 hours a week, which was spread over sort of 3 or 4 days, giving me a day to do part-time work throughout my degree. But now the computing subjects have less intensive contact hours and more intensive, you're sitting at home, you're doing project work, you're meeting your teammates to do work on the code that you're working on together. So they're sort of sitting around 13, 14 hours for me at the moment.
Maddie or Maya, did you have any wanted to share your experience around the amount of time you spent in and outside the classroom for your studies?
Yeah, I might actually jump off what Tristan was saying there about the contact hours for physics in particular. It's kind of been my experience that like the more contact hours you have for a subject, it's like you spend a little bit less time working by yourself. So a lot of art students would only have like 12 contact hours a week. But for example, for one of the literature courses that I did, I had to read 10 books in one semester. So I was spending a lot of time doing that, like reading outside sources, writing my essays and things. Whereas for physics and maths courses, it's a lot of the stuff you're doing by yourself is very similar to what you would do in tutorials. So I feel like the independent work is very different depending on what subjects you're talking about.
Fantastic. Nathan?
One of the questions we've had from students is particularly focused on engineering, and they were wondering what sort of facilities that those students will use during their undergraduate studies.
Great question. We have a huge range of facilities at the university, so it really depends on what kind of discipline you're doing in engineering or IT even. So we have a range of different wet labs, we have biomedical facilities, we have a chemical engineering lab which actually has some pretty state-of-the-art equipment. So whatever your engineering area is, we do have these incredibly big labs with these big machines. So for our students interested in mechanical engineering, we have labs that enable one of our clubs actually builds cars and races them. So it's a really good opportunity to get involved, and all the facilities are really there to, I guess, enable that learning.
And Steph, what we might just do, just given you're in the room, can you maybe just run us through, what you think are the strengths of the Melbourne School of Engineering Master of Eng and the 3+2 pathway into engineering, and there's some different accreditations that student gets, and maybe some exciting stories about where students end up. That's a lot, but I figure I'll give you the brief.
I'll try and condense that. But yeah, I guess look, we have the 3+2 model at Melbourne School of Engineering, and really, I mean, there are engineering disciplines that often students, when they're studying in high school, don't get exposure to. So there are things like spatial engineering. There's our mechatronics engineers, which is really a blend between mechanical and software. So the Melbourne model really gives you that chance to kind of identify which areas you want to do, as all of the students here have spoken about, the different ways you can really combine not just your science major subjects and electives, but then breadth as well, and then move on into your 2-year masters. So we're quite lucky at the Melbourne School of Engineering. We are probably the most accredited engineering degree in Australia. We have dual accreditation, so we're accredited through Washington Court, which enables you to work in Australia, the UK and the US, but we also have URACE, which we're one of only 2 universities in Australia that carry this accreditation, which really enables you to work in Europe. I did look up the list a few months ago, and I couldn't find a country that in the world that you couldn't use your engineering qualification in. And then some of our other disciplines have additional accreditation on top of that. So it really is your ticket to the world. I think that's been quite the theme of this presentation, but yeah, you can study anywhere in the world with that accreditation and really get those world-class researchers being the #1 engineering school in Australia as well.
Fantastic. Nathan, I think we have some questions perhaps for Warren around employability.
Yes, one of the questions we've had from the students is, could you please be a little bit more clear as to what we mean by transferable skills? So I think that's a good question from the students.
Yes, great question. The skills you pick up in your degree transfer. For example, working on a particular project involves working with other students, having to meet a deadline, having to coordinate resources. So all those skills employers love, because that's the kind of thing that can hit the ground running. Once you join an organisation, you can quickly join a project team and you understand what's involved in some of the processes and some of the communication skills that are required to work in that particular project. So they're transferable skills also, not only within your degree, but also through volunteer work, through originally the student clubs, of which there were many members of so many. Those sort of skills also are extremely transferable into industry because you're organising things, and as you mentioned, you know, you have to sometimes start up something and bring in other students and influence others to join. So that becomes an achievement in itself, and we recommend that that's the kind of achievement you would have on your resume, because it's actually something you've achieved while you've been at the university, outside or in the extracurricular space.
Fantastic. Yeah. What we might do, we're going to maybe take one more question from the floor. And I also, just while we're taking that question, I just want to suggest to our student hosts, the last question I'm going to ask you is what's your one piece of advice and your one highlight from your time either so far or at Melbourne. So have a think about that while we just take one more question from our lovely moderator, Nathan.
The last question that we've had this evening is, and I think this is a good one for a lot of people to answer, is if a student focuses their degree on a major from day one, will the Bachelor of Science degree be specialised enough to enter the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really important that what you have with your University of Melbourne Bachelor of Science is equivalent to world-class universities' Bachelor of Science. So you have a work-ready qualification ready to go out. Over 50% of our students, so it's just sitting over 50%, actually exit and move into the workforce after the Bachelor of Science, and they work in a range of different fields. Often they'll come back years later if they want to follow their interests further, but you absolutely can. So similar to other degrees throughout Australia and the world, you leave with a highly coveted and valuable Bachelor of Science, and lots of students do.
And Warren, I'm sure you meet with lots of students who go off to some exciting endeavours. Could you tell us maybe a couple of stories you've got in mind? And one thing we haven't talked about is the careers expos that we make available to current students in different disciplines.
We certainly do. Being on the campus here, right throughout the year, various faculties organise employers to come on campus, so you can talk directly to them. we recently just had a whole day career boot camp, and that was well attended. So we had alumni come back, and there were roundtable discussions. So alumni from the University of Melbourne talking about what it's like to make that transition from study to work. You know, what are the first few months like? And you're going to get over it eventually, but just to give them some ideas of how to transition into the workplace. So we have those events all the time. There is another major one in March, which is a careers fair, and that goes for 3 days, and it's aimed at various faculties, and there are employers who come on campus for that as well. So talking directly to employers is a great way to get the network starting to build. You can link up with those people on your LinkedIn profile, and there are plenty of opportunities here on campus. And I think it was mentioned earlier, we do run workshops on LinkedIn, networking skills, resume, right through the year. You've got many choices right through the week to book in on those and participate in our workshop and meet students from different faculties and different discipline areas as well.
Another place our students do actually find employment after they finish their Bachelor of Science is actually in the places that they did their internships. So a lot of our students excel in the workplace when they do an internship, and often they're welcomed back. And I can say also, University of Melbourne alumni are very proud, and they know the quality of those around them, and they're big supporters of other students graduating and coming through. It's a bonus of being part of a big professional network that can't be undervalued.
If I could say something finally, we do have a Melbourne Accelerator program, which Melbourne School of Engineering is very proud that it began in our school, but now it is university-wide. So that's a program where, obviously with our STEM students, very creative innovators. And if you come up with that business idea or that innovation, we've got a program that can really help pitch your idea to a panel of academics and industry experts, and there's some seed funding there for you to start developing that business and being that entrepreneur, and then you can finish your degree. So just a quick plug for one of our alum. If those of you out there have played the game Crossy Road, very addictive game, that's actually one of our Bachelor of Science students who then came through and did the Master of Engineering software, and that game actually won him an Apple Design Award, and now he's overseas working in Silicon Valley, developing many different apps. So it's a great program to get involved in if you do come up with that idea, which I know a lot of you out there are constantly thinking about the latest and cutting edge innovation.
And of course, just to finish off on that, we've got a number of students in the room and online who are obviously in graduate courses. And we're here also to help with opportunities to go into graduate study at the University of Melbourne. So Stop 1 and the graduate schools across the university are always available to talk to you about going on to future study, whether it's straight after your degree or after you go into the workforce, or even just talking about what you will do. And we have 3 graduate study expo events throughout the year where you can talk one-on-one in person to the wonderful staff at our graduate school. So we really do try to give you as much support as possible for you to make the great decisions to lead you to the careers of the future and the careers of your dreams. So the last thing we're going to do, I'm aware we've run over a bit, but we've still got a lot of you with us, so I'm hoping this is giving you some great insights. We're going to go back to the students about their highlights and their one piece of advice. Tristan, again, you're grinning. I'll let you start off.
My highlights alongside my earlier grin. It's definitely I love learning. I love my computer science course, but my highlight at uni is definitely uni life and the friends I've made through student clubs, but also just in my lectures. It was great. Everyone's on the same footing when it comes to first year, and my piece of advice is exactly what led me to get my highlight, and that is regardless of where you go, but especially here in Melbourne, if you sit down in your first lecture and you don't know the person next to you, just be like, hey, my name's Tristan, what's yours? Where do you come from? And meet new people. And that not only helps you have a good social life, it helps you have a good professional life, because the people who study next to you are the people who are going to be innovators in the field that you're working in.
Fantastic. We'll go remotely. Maya, tell us about your highlight and your advice.
My highlight would probably be meeting people, but especially like international or exchange people at my accommodation, but also in classes, because you don't just learn about what you're learning in your course, but you learn about different cultures and experiences, like us kids going on exchange as well, and you just, it's crazy how many people you meet and how many connections can come from just introducing yourself to one person. And yeah, my advice is similar to Tristan's, that you know, yeah, do make an effort, especially in your first year, to try and be social and make some friends, because it does make learning and going to lectures and tutorials better. Because like, oh yes, I get to see that person, and we're doing the same class, so we can give each other advice and try and get through like the year together. And you really you have a support group and you feel more at home and included. It's really good.
Fantastic. And over to you, Maddie, in London.
I always laugh when people ask me about my highlight at uni because it's almost like going away from uni. I really enjoyed exchange. I feel like that 6 months away, getting to talk to other people at different institutions and see what was going on, and still getting to feel like an equal at like a university like Berkeley, which is so well regarded for what I do. And again, I got to travel this year and study in Princeton for a month and a half. So I feel like Uni Melb is really great with those kinds of opportunities and supporting their students to work with other institutions. My advice would probably be similar to what Maya and Tristan have said, and to what's been reiterated again and again throughout this whole talk, I think, is try and make yourself a well-rounded person. Melbourne does make that very easy, but especially with the hindsight of having applied to graduate school here and speaking to different advisors about the students that they look for, they don't necessarily look for the people with the best marks. They're looking for people who can help their team, so can fill gaps in other people's knowledge. They're easy to work with, you know, sociable. So yeah, really just try and get involved with as many aspects of uni life as you can.
Fantastic. And we'll cap off with KL and Claire.
Yeah, I think my advice is kind of similar to Tristan and Maya as well, like more of meeting the people. So I guess the highlight of my experience here is so far is that I've met people from like literally from around the world, like North America, Canada, US, China, Hong Kong, and basically everywhere. And like, for example, if I were to go there for a holiday, I could even stay at their places. Yeah, I think it's good. Like it's kind of, in a way, kind of networking. And yeah, and my piece of advice would be to just come to Melbourne with an open mind and just be receptive to everything, and you'll be surprised at like what you can gain from that. Yeah.
Great. Claire?
I think my biggest piece of advice would be apply for everything. Apply yourself to everything that Melbourne Uni has to offer, because there's so many opportunities, and once you apply for one thing, it just opens doors to others. Even volunteering, then you hear about new things and it just keeps opening doors. So always look out for opportunities to extend yourself, and always apply for everything that's available to you. Also go on exchange, like Maddie said, that is a very big highlight of my degree. So exchange is an amazing opportunity, and Melbourne Uni has so many different partners all across the globe, and that's because of their worldliness. They just have so many connections, and that means that as students we get the opportunity to go so many different countries, and I think that everyone should definitely make the most of that opportunity.
Fantastic. So we're almost right at the end. What we're going to do now, just for about 30 seconds, is I'm going to turn the webcam off and let everyone pop back to their seats. I'm also going to say a very big thank you to Maya. Thank you so much, and also for giving us that lovely bird song in the background. It's, particularly for our international students, what a great it's the Australian bush in the a pretty unique time and sound to hear. And Maddie, you got up at 5:30 in the morning to give your expertise to these students. So we are incredibly grateful that you were able to do that, and the insights that both of you have provided have just been wonderful. So I can't thank you enough for making the time to log in to chat with us. Beautiful. So I am going to just turn the camera off for a moment. We'll go through a final few slides around what's next, and then we will finish the webinar. So just bear with us, and we'll be with you back shortly. Okay, so it's me again. and we're just going to click through. So to just wrap up and conclude quickly, firstly, thank you so much for joining us. As I said, we ran over slightly, but it's so lovely to see that so many of you are still with us. And we really hope that in going over with our Q&A, with our staff and our students, you've got some fantastic value from the really wonderful experiences that await you here should you choose to come to Melbourne. In terms of what's next, all we can really recommend to you is to keep updated, keep in touch, come to our events if you're able to, if you're in Victoria, in Melbourne. Don't forget that we offer a lot of online opportunities. There are webinars happening all the time for different programs, and you can of course engage with Stop One. So Stop One exists to support our current students, but also our future students, and you can get in touch with them at any point to have your questions answered. So they've got Twitter, they've got Facebook, they have a First Year at Melbourne page as well. And of course you can come in person to Parkville, or you can send them an email. So just to try to be a bit extra helpful for you today, we've just got that detail there for you. So in person, chatting online, submitting an inquiry, and the link down there in the bottom will also provide to you in the follow-up email. In terms of a couple of opportunities, this is obviously for students who are either in Melbourne next week or will be coming to Melbourne. We have Course Information Day. This is an opportunity for students looking to apply for undergraduate study, particularly in semester 1, but look semester 2 as well, to really have a great opportunity to chat to our faculties and graduate schools about the wonderful opportunities at Melbourne, to learn more about the courses that we offer, to learn more about breadth, to learn more about student services. Pretty much anything Melbourne will be able to talk to you about. We also have a wonderful Christmas farmers market, so bring the family and go to the Christmas farmers market. Interestingly, we actually have a farmers market that runs on campus throughout semester, and our students and staff alike enjoy the opportunity to buy fresh fruit and vegetables and beautiful farm provisions just in the middle of campus. For our students who might be near Sydney in New South Wales, or again who would like to travel to Sydney, we have the Sydney Information Day. This is a kind of a smaller version of Course Information Day. We've packed up all our best people and we're sending them to Sydney, and we'll have some course directors and staff from our team here at the university to talk to you about the opportunities available to you at Melbourne, and we'll also have some current students to talk to you more about their experiences as interstate students, just as our wonderful student panel has done here today. So that actually brings us to the end of the formal proceedings of the webinar. Thank you so much for sticking with us throughout the webinar. We really hope that you've learned a lot about the Bachelor of Science, and you've really enjoyed hearing more about the expertise from our staff and our students. As you can see, we've put together, I think, what I would describe as a bit of a gun team, and I think I speak for everyone here when I say that we've really, really enjoyed talking to you this evening. So it's a big thank you from us, and a see you at Melbourne in the future. Please make sure that you stick with us online if you'd like to have a chat. We'll all be available over the next few minutes, but we'll also follow up with an email, as I said, with a survey that we would love for you to complete so we can hear more about your experience, and also the opportunity to provide you with more information about where to go for other questions that you might have. So good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world, and we will see you some other time. Thanks for joining us for Science Online at the University of Melbourne.